Welcome to Questions from the Closet. I'm Charlie Bird.
And I'm Ben Shalati. Each episode, we discuss a question that we commonly get asked as LGBTQ plus Latter-day Saints.
We're not trying to answer this question or come to a consensus, but simply sharing our perspectives. Today's question is, do you ever feel conflicted paying tithing?
So Charlie and I are not terribly diverse, and we share many opinions and life experiences. For example, we both have jobs that pay us money.
However, there are some pretty big differences. For example, Ben knows how much money to expect during the year from his job, and I have no idea.
Yeah, well, until recently I had a set salary, so I knew exactly what my paycheck would be.
Now you're unemployed.
Yes, I am unemployed, but I have a job that I will be starting soon.
I have a mixture. People are like, what do you do? Especially we just moved, and everyone in our new ward's like, so what do you do? And I'm like, well, I am a therapist and an author and a social media influencer. Mm-hmm. And it's all just random. So I never keep track of taxes and stuff till the very end of the year. Then it's just a mad rush.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I would venture to say, talking about money is weird. Is it weird? People are weird about it.
People think it's weird. I'm happy to share what my salary is, how much I save. I'm very open with money. I came from a family that was very open with money stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like this is going to sound awful, but I feel like people with less money are more open about money.
My family didn't have a lot of money.
Yeah,
That's
and
fair.
I'm not saying your family is poor, but you're all teachers and you work hard.
You're saying that teachers are poor?
Yeah, teachers are horribly underpaid.
Yeah, there were 6 of us in a 1-bathroom house.
Yeah, and so I don't know. It's just interesting.
Yeah. Also, because of certain laws, teacher salaries are posted online.
Yeah.
So I could look up what my mom made and what my siblings made.
Yeah.
So when I worked at the University of Arizona, everyone's salary was also public information.
Which I feel like is good. But my salary is not public information, not even to me. It's not even private information. But I feel like it's a lot less than people think. Because I was like, you wrote books, you must be rolling in the dough. And I'm like,
do you know anything about book writing?
I think they know what the kickback is. And even I don't know, it's just funny. A lot of people are like, you travel a lot. I'm like, you don't know how many airports I sleep in to get the good flight.
Also, I'm going to be sleeping in 2 airports on a trip this summer. I'm not looking forward to it. But I did save $400 doing it.
Do you have... see? It's so fun.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's not going to be worth it.
You're
going to wish you just paid the $400.
Well, this is what I was thinking. I was like, if someone offered to pay me $200 to sleep in the airport, would I do it? And the answer is yes, I would.
For $200?
I would sleep in an airport for $200.
I would do it too, but I would tell anybody else to not. Yeah. I do it for $20.
The problem
I'll do it for some Costa Vida.
I'm just getting too old. Before, whatever, I don't need sleep. But now it's
You should get one of those camping mattress pads. You know what I'm talking about? Just air it out yourself.
Okay, we're getting off topic now.
This is making me want to do a bonus episode where we just chat about whatever.
Well, we could, but not tonight.
There's no guest. It's just us tonight.
Yeah, there's no guest.
Partially because...
no one wanted to talk about this.
Yeah, because talking about money is hard. And talking about tithing is hard. So this question gets asked a lot. And I also think this question gets... how would you say it? Presented a lot. How can you pay tithing?
Yeah.
A lot of people have come to me and said, how can you financially support this organization that oppresses you?
Yeah, or a lot of parents will get told by their kids, if you pay tithing to this church, you don't love and support me.
Yeah. You can't be an ally if you pay tithing to the church.
Yes, that's something that I think is said a lot. This happens to a lot of people where they're told by someone, hey, if you pay your tithing, you don't support me or you don't love me or you can't be a good ally if you pay tithing. And I think it's important to know where that comes from.
Yeah.
I think if that is happening to any individual, it'd be important to say, help me understand where you're coming from. Let them express their pain, their anger, their feelings, because they might have individual reasons that we're unaware of.
Well, just quick plug. I think that's always the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you can reflect and ask open-ended questions, if someone's coming to you really angry, say, tell me about your anger. Tell me where this is coming from. Anger is a secondary emotion, and usually there's always something beneath it.
Yeah. So the church has promoted in the past, Prop 8 in California, and so I think people view the church as being not supportive of people who want to be in same-sex marriages, and people in same-sex marriages can't fully participate in the church.
Yeah. And
so I think that there's just this view that if you're not fully supportive of people and their life choices, then this is a harmful organization.
Yeah. People feel marginalized, gay individuals, especially gay individuals in relationships, feel marginalized by church policies and church practices.
Yeah.
And so the idea is if you are supporting this organization, it's it's making bigger this organization that marginalizes, like, quote unquote, me. You know, they're saying, yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, I understand that. Like, I definitely see where that comes from. And again, like we talked about this earlier as a joke, but like money is always a hot button issue, and there's always a lot of like financial. It seems like there's a lot of financial controversy around the church, and this is like something that gets brought up a lot. I hear this a lot. That like you can't pay tithing and be in LA.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
Like if I ever felt conflicted about paying tithing.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about that?
I mean, I'm open to people feeling how they feel about things and being honest about that. So I wouldn't want to tell someone what to think or how to feel.
Yeah.
So
That sounds like our outro.
it's true.
Right.
We did write that, so that does reflect my personal feelings.
Yeah. So have you felt conflicted ever?
I haven't, honestly.
Yeah.
No.
Tell me about why not.
So I have always paid tithing, and it's just always been it was ingrained in me as a kid. It's just always been a habit. And as I've reflected more on why I do that, it's actually become more meaningful as I've gotten older.
Yeah.
So I took a self-reliance class a few years ago about personal finances. And I don't know if you've done one of the personal finance classes.
One of
but
yours?
No, just like any of them. Or like any of the...
Like from the church?
Any of the self-reliance classes.
No, I just told you I don't know how much money I make.
Anyway,
Not the best budgeter.
they're good. I've done two, and they're like the first lessons are always like so basic, like duh, and that's how I felt like going into them. And one of them was about in this personal finance class was about paying tithes and offerings. I'm like, I do that. I don't need to have this lesson. But then as we went through the lesson, the takeaway I had from it was I want to be intentional about how I pay my tithing. I just want to push some buttons on my computer and transfer money, but I want to be really intentional about it. And so since then, I've tried a lot harder to think about why I'm doing it and what it means to me to do it. And there's this talk that then Elder Nelson gave maybe like 7 or 8 years ago about the Sabbath day. And he said that the Sabbath day is less about like do's and don'ts, but the sign we want to give to God.
Yeah.
And so when I pay my tithing, this is what I try and think about. Everything I have isn't mine. Like everything I have technically belongs to God, and I'm just a steward of it. And so when I pay my tithing, the sign I'm giving to God is, thank you for what you have given to me. And I want to give that. I want to show my thanks and trust by giving some of it back. So to me, it's not about giving the church money. It's about showing like my love and gratitude for God.
Yeah. So what would you say to someone who is like, yeah, that's great. I want to give my tithing to a different organization that I feel like more fully supports my view of God.
Yeah, honestly, I have no problem with that personally. That's not what I've chosen to do.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really beautiful thing to give the material means we have for the betterment of other people and of the world.
Yeah.
And to me, like I believe the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints to be the kingdom of God on the earth. I believe it's divine, and I'm thrilled to participate in it.
Yeah.
And like, I don't just give my money; like I give my time, my talents, everything. Yeah, I really do. And and the tithing I pay, like I use church stuff. Like I go to church every Sunday. Like I worship in the temple. I get manuals for free. Right. I attended BYU 3 times, which was subsidized by tithe. Like I benefit from the tithes of the church.
Yeah.
And so to me, like I feel like I'm participating in an organization that does a lot of good for me personally.
Yeah, and as you're talking about this, it's kind of reminding me of like church versus gospel almost, because I think there's ways to like de-gospelify and de-spiritualize a lot about the church and just look at it as a structure or an organization. And it seems like, and which, I mean, I feel like people can view it how they view it, right? But like under that, guys, I feel like if it's looked at structurally, that's when tithing feels bad to people. And if it's looked at strictly gospelly, that's when tithing feels really good to people. It seems like because I've talked to a lot of people about this, and it seems like there's these two camps where they're like, the church is an organization that's oppressing me, or they're like, I pay my tithing to God through the church.
Can I just tell you a story? And this is kind of how I was raised. So I came home from my mission, and my parents gave me $5,000. I'm going to tell you exact numbers.
Wow.
Yeah, and to go to school, which was so nice. Maybe it was $1,000. I don't remember.
Let's go with five.
Let's
I
go
like
with five.
that.
Yeah. And so I asked my mom, "This was a gift you gave to me. Do I need to pay tithing on this?" And this is what my mom said. She said, "Ben, we already paid tithing on that money, so I don't think you have to. Like when I earned it, I already paid tithing on it." And then she said, "But I don't think you can ever be too generous with the Lord." And like that was the lesson she gave me. Like, and that was how she said, like, you can't be too generous with the church, but too generous with the Lord. Like I remember her talking about God there. And so I've just always thought, to me, it's about me and God and the sign that I'm giving God. I have one more story about my parents, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So when my parents got married, we're from the Seattle area, and they joined the church year after they got married, and they were both teachers, and they lived on one salary and then saved the entire other salary for their kids' college funds. And then my mom had a lot of trouble getting pregnant. She had a lot of miscarriages, so they didn't have my brother until 5 years into their marriage. So they had saved up 4 years of a salary for our college educations. They had this huge chunk of money. And then back then, members were asked to donate to build buildings.
The meeting house.
And the Seattle Temple was being built. And so they had this big ward dinner, like a big fundraiser where people could donate money to the construction. And my dad felt prompted, since they're like, well, we're not going to have kids because we've been trying for so long. We're going to give all this college fund to the temple. I know. And then
How special is that temple to you?
I think it's boxy, but it's beautiful to me.
You're like, Dad, you couldn't have paid for some smoother corners.
Yeah. and then what my mom didn't know at the time was she was pregnant with my oldest brother.
Oh.
But didn't know about it until later. So they gave her our college funds, and then my mom was actually pregnant. They had 4 kids. And so when my parents told me the story, I was like, they forgot. They never told us the story growing up. I heard about it from my friend's mom who was like present. And she's like, I remember this really cool thing your dad did. And I was like, I have never heard the story. So I went home and was like, Dad, what happened? He confirmed the whole story. And then I was like, well, you probably should have kept the money because you had 4 kids. And then my dad pointed out, all of you kids have graduate degrees and none of you took out a single student loan. Because like things worked out the way they were supposed to.
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of how I've always felt about it. God will take care of us. And, this isn't less about like the blessings of paying tithing, but
for you, the windows of heaven have opened and you've had blessings poured out upon you.
Yeah, exactly. And so if someone, as they interact with God and wants to show God, gratitude and thanks, and they want to do that in a different way than I do it, I say, trust your relationship with God and trust what you're feeling called to do. And for me, every month when I get my paycheck, I have no problem clicking those buttons and donating money to the church.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And even fast offerings, I do that too.
Fast offerings are beautiful.
Yeah.
That's so special. I love that you know exactly where it goes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Charlie, have you ever felt conflicted about
paying tithing? I have, actually. I have like 2 main stories I want to tell.
Please.
With like a bridge between them. So
like a musical bridge?
No. So all growing up, I like never had any problems paying tithing either. Mm-hmm. Until I was a senior in high school. I graduated. I was prepping to go to BYU. And I had been working in the bakery, doing cakes and as a lifeguard all summer.
You must have been very tan.
I was so tan.
You tan very well.
So good. I smelled like buttercream, and I was just like so evenly complected. It was very nice. But also at 18, I was like so like tall and lanky and skinny with no muscle mass. So I was just like knees and elbows that were really tan. Anyway, yeah, I'd always paid tithing, and I'd always had like a really good, like it was easy to pay tithing. My family went through some like intense financial hardships when I was like 14 that included bankruptcy and my parents divorced. And it was like really, really hard for my family to bounce back from that. And, I watched my mom feel conflicted about tithing a little bit and like talk to leaders and like figure that out for herself. So we didn't have much to go off, like, and I was going to college. And so I remember I'd saved up all this money but there were expenses. Like I had to get a computer for school and I had to do all this stuff. And like working at I think as a lifeguard, I was making $7.50 an hour and it was like $7.75 at the bakery. So it's not a lot. And I calculated it out and I had $1,000 that I had like to my name. I had $1,000 and I was going to school and I was like, I need to pay tithing. And I calculated up, and I still remember this. I owed $928 in tithing. And I was like, oh, I'm going to have like, was that $72? And I was like, I'm going to go to school. And I was like, I have $72 to get me to Provo, and then I have nothing. And I have to pay for school, and I have to pay for a mission. It was freaking me out. And I remember sitting there like the morning before I left, and I was like, am I going to pay this tithing, or am I going to like have something as a backup in case something goes wrong with the car or whatever? And I decided to pay my tithing, and I said a prayer, and I was like, God, like, I hope this is okay to say, but like, I need a blessing. Like, if this is real, please, now is the time. And so I was driving out with my older sister. We got in the car. We were like getting in the car, and then my mom was like, oh, let me check the mail before you go.
There was a gold bar in there.
It was actually a Willy Wonka chocolate. No, she gives me this letter, and I was like, this is weird. I opened it, and it was from the Boy Scouts of America Association, and I had applied for a scholarship, the National Eagle Scout Scholarship, like the September before, like a year before. I completely forgot I'd applied for it, and I won the scholarship.
Wow.
I'd won the scholarship, and so in this envelope was a check for many thousands of dollars that paid for my school. Mm-hmm. That like first year and all the books, housing, and everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, here's the deal. Rationally, I knew this happened, right? It was already in the mailbox when I'd paid my tithing a couple hours earlier. Mm-hmm. But I was like, wow. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm never not going to pay tithing again. So I told myself, it was really beautiful. Mm-hmm. It was such a tender mercy, a huge blessing.
That's cool, Charlie.
Fast forward to last year. I'm gay. Surprise.
What?
And
wait, were you Cosmo?
I was gay. I'm gay and I'm Cosmo. Was Cosmo. Still gay. So I was working on my book, Expanding the Borders of Zion. And I put a lot of effort into that. And I self-published that book. I really felt strongly that I could. And self-publishing is a lot different because you take on the full financial responsibility of it. Mm-hmm. And I like calculated how many I needed to print for the first round, like what I wanted to sell. And I was like, I have to sell these books. And it was so interesting because a similar thing happened because there was an issue. You remember what it was? I can't talk about it publicly, but there was a huge issue with the print of the book.
Yeah.
Something felt like it was, it's a story I can never tell, but there was an issue rooted in oppression that really drastically impacted the book. And it had already gone to print. And it was either like I had to do a reprint of like many thousands of copies of this book. And I checked my bank account, and to pay for the reprint, it would have left me with $36. And I was going to do pre-orders, and that's why I did pre-orders, because I literally had nothing. But I couldn't pre-order the book for like another 6 weeks. And I was like, I can't live on $36 for 6 weeks. And I didn't have a job. I was just writing. I was doing everything to like put this book out. And I was
As I recall, I think I offered to give you some money.
Yeah. Like, which is nice, but self-reliance.
I would still give you money.
Yeah. Like, and there's resources, but you know, like I wanted to bootstrap this. I wanted to do it myself.
That's that Missouri boy in you.
I'm a Missouri boy. Bootstrap. With the cracked voice included. Bootstrap. I'm a Missouri boy.
Anyway, back to your Chechen story, please.
So I'm sitting there on my couch in this like ramshackle apartment that I still live in because rent was $375. And I'm like, I have $36 if I do this. And then I was like, I have to pay tithing. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so, no, I told that story wrong. I would have had $36 if I paid the tithing. I'm so sorry. Reverse that whole story. With the book and the tithing, it would have been $36. And I'm sitting there and I start thinking, well, here's the deal. I'm doing all this for this good thing that's building the kingdom. Mm-hmm. So really that's tithing anyway. And then I'm thinking, well, let's think about it rationally. Like the church does discriminate. And I was like, actually, I feel really weird paying tithing because I've felt marginalized by the church and the church does marginalize. But then I start going rational. I'm like you, I'm like, well, I have grown up with a church building and I went to BYU and I've benefited from the tithing and social relationships from the church, like monetary value. And I went through and I was doing this like tit for tat thing. Like, am I getting enough out of the church system that makes up for the tithing? And is the oppression I've experienced not worth the money that I wouldn't pay or whatever, you know? So I keep running through this and running through this. And I remember this experience from when I was a senior in high school. And I was like, gosh, like I know who I am. Like I know where my faith is. And I did the same thing and I knelt down and I said, God, I've been working so hard on this book and I just got flatlined by something I didn't see coming that is hurting my feelings. It's because of systemic oppression that I've had to pay all this extra money to do a good thing. And if I pay tithing, I will have $36 for the next 6 weeks until hopefully someone buys this in a pre-order. And I said, I'm going to do it. And I want you to know, God, that I'm not paying tithing to the church right now. I'm paying tithing to you. And I can just hope it goes to a place that I would agree with. And I just like, please bless me because I need something to happen here. I pay the tithing. And I opened my fridge. And my fridge was full of rotten deer meat.
I remember that.
This is the deer meat fridge day. Okay. And I kind of forget about the tithing. I'm doing this whole thing about the cleaning out my fridge. It's disgusting. I throw up, whatever. It becomes
Did you actually throw up?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, it becomes this viral thing on social media because all these moms are like, LOL, he went on a trip. Also, I'd gone on a trip. So, like, that's where the rest of my money went.
I'm so poor because I went to Europe.
It was not foreseen. This extra money was not. It was like a lot of money to fix the issue. Anyway, so this goes viral, and I get reached out to a couple hours later by a local company who offers me a new fridge. And if it gets this many likes, I did a dance with them. And if it gets this many likes, they said they'd pay 6 months of rent. And it did. And then the next day I had enough money to live for 6 months, but I only needed like a couple, and it paid for my food. It paid for a couple other issues that I had arise with the book.
Yeah.
And it happened like 4 hours later after I paid my tithing.
That's really cool.
And I don't know why these grand things happen to me. Maybe it's because I need something extreme or dramatic for God to be like, hey, look, this is actually happening. But the same thing happened again, where I had this issue and I was rationalizing and I just had to use faith and like God pulled through.
Yeah.
And, you know, right now I'm married, which means I don't have like full participation in church. Like I can't go to the temple. There's things that like I'm really mourning. And again, I kind of had to revisit. Ryan, you're in the room. Is it okay if I talk about what you were talking about last night?
Sure.
So we moved into a new ward and our records were transferred in. And there's not a way to transfer a gay couple into the church system because a man has to be with a woman in order to be a full household. And so it was really cute. Like the ward clerk was like, I don't know what to do. I just did the best I could. So he put me in as like the head of household. What's up, Brian? And
You are the taller person.
I am the taller one, yes. And the one who is ready for church a little bit earlier. And so they put Ryan as my dependent. And we're like, not like our records in the church don't show that we're a married couple. And it's because the system doesn't allow that. It doesn't have space for it. I don't know if this happened to any other gay couples, but I know it's like kind of a rare thing that gay couples still go to church. Mm-hmm. So we're entering new territory. And Ryan was talking about it last night. And he's like, I don't know if I want to pay tithing to an organization that doesn't like literally even structurally our names. There's not even a place for our names. Like it can't even recognize that we're a married couple legally under the law. And we talked about it and I thought about it. And so I revisited this, and I feel like this is something I don't have to revisit the rest of my life. And I just thought of those two stories. I'm like, you know what? In a sense, it's cool. In a sense, it's beautiful that there's not a space for us here and that we're showing up anyway. Like there's power in that. And it's cool to hit. It's fun to hit a ceiling because at least I got high. At least I got somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
And also like, I believe in paying tithing. I just do. And so I don't feel conflicted about it from a gospel sense, and that makes me not conflicted about it from a church sense.
Yeah.
And that's how and that is my opinion.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing those beautiful stories, Charlie, and like the reality of like, is this the right thing to do? And, I think when we tell these tithing stories, at least when we both just did now, we talk about these miraculous things that happen when we do this thing,
Yeah.
which is cool. And I think that happens more with tithing stories than most other commandment stories.
We love a tithing story.
But like, what if someone is paying their tithing and it feels painful?
Yeah.
What if there's a mom or a dad who are signing that check and they know that their kid is mad at them while they do that? I just like feel like that would just be such a painful place to be in.
And I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah.
I wish I did. It is painful. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's painful for my husband, and that's, I think, you know what I'm going to do?
What's that?
I'm going to be intentional with my tithing. Like I usually, I'm kind of lax. Like I don't even know how much money, like I pay tithing at the end of the year a lot in a lump sum. I want to like consecrate my tithing, and honestly, like from my heart, be honest about the experience and tell that to God. Like, hey God, like I feel good about this. It's really painful for my partner, or like I feel painful doing this, and this is the decision I'm making, and we have agency, and we can pay tithing or not, and we can repent or not. Like there's. But if anything, this conversation like helps me realize that I need to be more intentional about this, and like consecrate it, like dedicate it,
Yeah. And, and consecrating something means to make it holy. And I want, whatever I do with the church to be something that's made holy. And honestly, like my tithing is probably the least I do to build the church. I mean,
yeah.
If we were gonna like think of like all the hours I spend doing like building the church,
it's not worth however many.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I spend so many hours just in a week, teaching classes, I'm working in the temple and ministry, all those things. And the truth is, like, I'm not motivated by money, like almost 0%. Like, I'm just not a money motivated person.
Right.
And I think that almost kind of annoys you sometimes.
Well, I'm not really a money motivated person either. Yeah. But I also hear you say that you want to be a homeowner for the past 6 years, and I'm like, then take a step to be a homeowner, Ben.
Yeah. Well,
we'll get there with
Charlotte. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, this is what I'm saying. Like, there's a bit of annoyance. And so, like, when I'm paying my tithing, it's not like, oh, I'm going to miss this money, or like, oh, this money's going to go somewhere. It really is me trying to give thanks to God and show my trust and faith in Him.
Yeah. And sometimes people are going to want explanations. Like your kid might want an explanation. Like, how can you do this? I don't know. Maybe you can't give them. Maybe you can say, this is why I'm doing it. This is what I believe in. And this is what I'm doing to support you as well. Or, and like logically, the church isn't an organization that's sole purpose is to destroy gay families. Like that's not where like the tithing is funneling to, like, and I guess like logically you can look at it like any organization might have things like people don't eat, like a lot of gay men I know don't eat at Chick-fil-A because Chick-fil-A has supported like anti-LGBTQ rights as well.
Yeah, but
so,
it's
like,
so delicious.
Is it the same as getting a Chick-fil-A sandwich or, like, and there's different opinions there. And
I want to like respect the choices people make based on their values.
Yeah.
And I'm making choices that are based in my values.
Yeah. I will also say there is some binary thinking there, and there is some hurt. Like, if you do this, you can't love me or have respect for me. That sounds to me like black and white thinking, which is a cognitive distortion that's pulling from a place of pain. And we talked about the anger being the primary emotion. The secondary emotion almost always is rejection. So it makes sense. Like someone's feeling rejected and they see you supporting this organization that has made them feel rejected.
Yeah.
And that's sad.
That's painful.
And that's painful. It's the reality.
And I think if a loved one is expressing that kind of pain, we need to sit with them. And I think if someone came up to me and said, Ben, I feel very uncomfortable that you pay tithing, it would be inappropriate, or maybe at least like not the right thing to do to be like, well, here's why I pay tithing.
Well,
You
I
know,
can do whatever I want.
these are my values. I would really want to say, hey, help me understand where you're coming from, and then just like really sit with their pain, and if and hopefully they would say, this is hard for me, and I honor your agency as well to make the choices that work for you.
Yeah. It's funny. I feel like I've had two like very visible, concrete experiences that have like told me how I feel about tithing, and yet there's still some conflict there. And so I just feel like this is an area where I'm gonna have to live by faith. And it's weird. It feels weird to say out loud that I've had like faith solidifying experiences, and yet there's still doubt there.
Yeah.
But maybe that's what being a disciple of Christ is. Like Simon Peter was walking on water until he wasn't.
Yep.
And maybe that's tithing for me.
And Joseph Smith said, "Oh God, where art thou?"
Yeah.
You know?
After seeing him.
Uh-huh.
So, wow, that's kind of harrowing.
Yeah.
So, pay your tithing or don't.
I would say, I mean, yes, pay your tithe or don't. Like, of course, we're not going to tell you what to do. But the principle I'd really give is, we've all been blessed to live in this world. We all have some kind of material things. And how are we going to show our thanks for those things?
Yeah. What and how? What do you want to consecrate to God and how?
Yeah.
And I hope that I can be the kind of person who's willing to consecrate time, talents, and efforts. That for me is easy. But the financials, it does, maybe because of that structure, that organization, because it's so easy to peel the gospel from that. Maybe that's why there's conflict.
Yeah.
But I want to be the kind of person who is willing to consecrate that. I don't. There's something like. What did you just say before I said that?
Let me just give you an example. The car I drive was not purchased by me. My dad gave it to me. Well, my parents did. And since I've gotten this car, I've always felt like it was mine to share with others.
Yeah.
Like if people ask me, "Can I borrow your car?" I'm like, "Yes, of course." Like, "Can I get a ride?" "Yes, of course." Because I don't feel like it belongs to me. Like it was a gift to me, and that is everything. Like everything is actually a gift to me, and so I want to share it. And I guess,
Hey, Ben, can I borrow your shirt?
of course you can.
I don't want to.
Well, I can't run fast and I have strength, so. Anyway, but all these things should be done in wisdom and order. The whole King Benjamin speech in Mosiah. But I guess what I would just want people to think about is, how do you want to reflect your gratitude for the gifts you've been given?
Yeah.
And for me, that's giving a lot to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah.
And other things too. Like, in a lot of ways, I feel like I give my thanks to God, but that's one of the ways I do it.
I guess I'm saying, like, I hope I can always view this from a spiritual lens and not like structurally or tit for tat, or like I donated to this, so now I also have to donate to this organization to like make up for anything. Like I want to do good with my time, talents, and efforts and my money.
Yeah.
Even if it isn't as much as how it was sometimes.
Well, I know how much I make. Someday you'll know how much you make.
Should we start making money on the podcast so then we can pay our tithing with it?
No, we should not.
Well, as we're wrapping up, why don't you tell me some other things you do that you don't feel conflicted about?
Well, most of what I do, I don't feel conflicted about.
And what if you do?
If I do feel conflicted, then I ponder about it and think about it and make choices that feel right to me.
So maybe that's the best answer we could give.
Yeah. I mean, if someone is feeling conflicted, I'd say sit with those feelings, ponder about them,
Learn from
and really like sit in that tension and then really see how you feel called to move forward. And what's nice about choices is most of them can be undone.
Yeah.
So if you feel like, you know what, I don't feel good about this, so I'm not going to pay my tithing this month. I mean, that's not what I do. But if that's what you want to do, then if that doesn't work, then you can pay it the next month.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point. Just the idea that like, and that's really what we're here to do. Like we have Christ, we have agency, we have repentance, we have free will, and we can choose to. And I tell people that all the time, like even like it kind of we think that like one choice we make is going to lead strictly forever down that same path. And honestly, that's kind of like the way we're raised sometimes. Like conference talks I'm thinking about now. And for some things that's true. And yet there's always the ability to switch course. And yeah, I think that's a great thing.
Yeah.
So hopefully this was helpful this was interesting. I thought it was interesting. And I'm happy to share those stories. They're really meaningful stories to me.
Yeah.
And it's fun to let people know that. And it was cool to hear about your family.
They're great.
Yeah.
They taught me to trust God.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. Catch you next time.
Thank you for joining us today. If you have enjoyed this or other episodes, please consider leaving a review, following us on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube at Questions from the Closet, or sharing this podcast with someone you love. And as always, please remember that we do not represent the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or Brigham Young University. We're not trying to be prescriptive or tell anyone what to think or what to do.
You heard 3 perspectives, and there are many, many more. We encourage you to listen to other voices and hear a wide variety of experiences. If you would like to submit a question or share a comment about today's episode, you can email us at questionsfromthecloset@gmail.com.
Until next time.